What's up, everybody? It is Chris Miller here, going live for today's Thursday live stream. Let me open up these blinds here for the office. I only got one window in this office. This is the only office I've ever had where there's only one window, but I actually prefer that because I like to dim the light a little bit when I'm working, but that's just me. Every other office I've had, they've always had like these like wall length windows, and I really not a big fan of that. I'd rather just have one window so it's not too much light pouring into the room, especially when I'm doing some sort of editing, like video editing. It's easier to have a darker room when you're doing that. That's just my humble opinion. I know some people like it different, but I rather just have the light of the screen when I'm editing. But how's everyone going? Or how's everything going for everybody? Hope everyone's doing okay. Uh, I'm just coming out of doing some corrections for the the new Big Monty book. So if you see me looking down at my table, that's what I'm doing. Usually I'll be over here at my sketch table or my drawing table, but for purposes of doing this live stream on time, I'd rather just actually sit here and do it from here. Okay. And I'll just show you guys what I'm working on a little bit. Just like I said, just making some corrections to some of the illustrations because I want them to look a little bit better. And there's some corrections that the author wanted. So I just want to make sure I fix those. I'm almost done with the book. I should be done by the end of this month, before October, and I think the book is going to be out there before November, if I'm not mistaken. That's what they were telling me. So this book has the process for this one has moved a lot faster than the first one, only because when we did the first one, we were doing character designs and coming up with story elements and stuff like that, and the way the characters dress. Now was really just once we had all that down pat, it was just we had to create some new characters, obviously, but it moved a lot faster, and we had a style for the book, and I was able to do a lot better. So on today's live stream, I won't keep you guys here too long, but I'm going to be talking about the programs that I use to do my artwork and my animation, and I will give you a rundown. Let me see if I still got that paper over here somewhere. Make sure I got my actual show notes as well, not just the drawing paper here. Let's see. Yeah. Here they go. So I want to tell you guys a little bit about just the programs that I learned, because I actually know about and have used a lot of programs, but I only really focus these days on using certain ones. So these days I don't really use as many programs, and I don't use a lot of the more popular ones. That's not to say that those programs are bad or that you shouldn't use those, but it's up to you guys how you want to do it. And my wealth of experience dates back to the late 90s. So I started using a lot of these programs back in 98, 99. So for me, things are a little bit different than they are now. A lot of programs that they have now, they didn't have when I was around, or they had the programs, but they weren't as advanced as they are now. So it's up to you what you want to use. First, just let me say this to a lot of young folks out there. You don't have to, there's a lot of things that you don't have to use in order to achieve what you want to achieve in the art world. Don't think that you need Photoshop, or don't think that you need Illustrator or 3D Max or Maya or whatever to accomplish your goals. There are plenty of different softwares out there. Use whatever you have available, or use whatever you're comfortable with, and you will achieve your goals. Don't be so put off by, oh, I gotta wait to I need Manga Studio to produce a comic book. You don't need that. I've done comic books with Adobe Flash, or back when it was Macromedia Flash. I've done comic books with Photoshop. My brother Deshantrin, who does the comic book King Courageous, does pencil and paper. Okay, and just make sure he scans his boards in at high quality and has it put it on paper like that. Okay, another friend of mine named Mike, he does the same thing. He just draws pencil and paper, and their comic books look amazing. It's up to you how you want to accomplish these things. Don't think that you need a certain program in order for you to achieve what you want to achieve. Don't be held back by lack of a certain program. Because I run into so many young people that say, "Hey, Chris, what programs do you use? What do you have? Or what programs do you like to use?" It doesn't matter. It only matters what you want to use. Okay, what I use is what I use, and that's just what I'm comfortable with. But you don't have to use that. And I remember years ago talking with Jason Black about just different programs, and we both agreed that yes, Flash has a high learning curve, and he's right. I talked about that. He said he doesn't prefer Flash because of the learning curve of it, and I agree because Flash. But I've been using Flash for so long. To me, it's comfortable. It's not that big of a deal. Like I used Flash back when it was still owned by Macromedia, which is the company that created Flash, and it wasn't as expensive as it is now. Like once Adobe got a hold of it, they started charging ridiculous money for it. Back when I used it, no one used it, so it was like it was just a cheap and easy way for me to produce the animation I want to produce. Like I remember using it for my very first animation class, or the first animation class I had where I had to produce a full animation. Not I have been doing animation already when I was in school. Like I had to do like I've actually done animation the old school way where you draw on paper and you film it with an actual camera frame by frame. Like I remember my very first animation was done that way. And I've done, the flip books and everything else. But I'm talking about as far as like doing a animation in a computer program and fix and trying to find a way to do it that way. Flash was just a easy way for me to get it done and get it done in a timely fashion. Okay. And once I used that, and I got a plus on that project because I was one of the few people. My teacher said, "You're the only person that's actually finished, or you're the only person who produced what he said he was going to produce." and and I don't know if that's just me being a good student or just being someone who's very someone who has a minor case of OCD. Okay, I when I set out to do something and I plan out a certain thing to go a certain way, I like it for it to be exactly the way I planned it. If it doesn't go the way I planned it, I kind of have a meltdown or I get stressed out about that. So yeah, I found a way to make Flash work for me, and I kept producing animations that way from then on. And at first, I remember as an early South Park, they just took the original South Park was cutouts. Okay, just making sure my stream is working. Okay, but the original South Park was just cardboard and construction paper cutouts put onto and filmed in front of a camera. That's how I was kind of doing my animation with Flash at first. I didn't realize till a little while later, once I started working with some other guys that were doing Flash. They actually called themselves the Flash guys back then. I remember those guys a lot and thanked them for giving me some game as far as like how to do Flash animation. But there was a group of six of them, and they put together. Um, they showed me how you can actually just do your artwork in the program Flash and have it be vectorized, and that way you don't lose any type of integrity of the image that when you blow it up. So if you want rendering out at high quality, your art doesn't lose its integrity. You can render it out at any size you want because it's a vector image. The difference between vector and just a plain JPEG image is vectorized. You can blow it up to whatever size you want, and it will maintain its integrity. It won't get blurry or whatever. Your average image that you render out like Photoshop, if it's not done at a right size to begin with, the minute you blow it up, you're going to start seeing pixels and everything else. So that's one of the things that kind of turned me off to Photoshop. Not to say Photoshop is bad. Uh, I might put some of my Photoshop stuff on this channel later on because there's some uncompleted projects that I created. Like I was working on like a short fantasy animation with Photoshop and Image Ready, but I might get and show that later on. It's not completed, so but you guys can like look at it and see it later on. That probably won't be until sometime in November because I need to collect all the files for that. But but yeah, that's so just to say what I've learned as far as like that goes, the programs that I do know, I learned Photoshop. And I probably out of the ones that I don't really use, I probably use that one the most. I really don't use it much anymore. I've learned Illustrator. I've learned Painter. Uh, I've learned Director. Director is a program that you can author and create DVDs with. So if you're creating like an interactive CD or DVD, you use Director. And that's actually one of the classes I did really well at. But in my adult life and my adult career, I really don't use it that much. There every If you have a CD burner or a DVD burner or a Blu-ray burner, every burner has its own version of authoring software, so that it's going to come with that. It's better to just go ahead and use that, and it's a lot easier to use whatever your system comes with than trying to go back and use Director. Really, there's no use for Director nowadays. I don't know who uses it. The same thing goes for Adobe Premiere. I learned that for doing video editing, but I don't really know anyone who uses Premiere anymore, if they do at all. Okay, because it was just straightforward. Shoot your video and put it in the editor, cut it together, and maybe put like a transition here and there. There was really not much to it. I remember. I wish I still had these videos because they were funny as hell. But I remember shooting like different, like funny live action TV shows, like just for school projects with and editing them in Premiere. I wish I still had those because they were actually pretty funny. Uh, I've learned how to use 3D Max, and I've also learned how to use Maya. I preferred 3D Max over Maya. I know there's the big debate like which one should you use for doing 3D animation. Once again, it's up to you. I prefer I prefer doing the animation with 3D Max. I just had more. It's for me. It worked a little bit better than Maya did. I know Maya. They said Maya's more for artists, but I couldn't get into it as much as some other people did. So it's up to you what you want to do. Like I said, I have no problem with 3D Max, and 3D Max was good for designing models and stuff for games and whatnot. I know my good buddy Steve is an extremely talented modeler. I don't know if he really does it as much anymore, but I remember he used to make entire transformers and mechs and stuff like that with 3D Max, and they would look amazing. And they were fully transformed too. They wouldn't just be just a robot standing there. He could actually animate them transforming and everything else. He's extremely talented. Like I said, I don't know if he does it as much as he used to, but uh, it depends on your talent and your determination. Like I remember doing a horror movie scene. Like I actually modeled a scene from. It was kind of a take off of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but like it wasn't. There was no people in it. It was just like the background and of like a dirty, disgusting basement with like chains and stuff like that hanging off the ceiling and whatnot. Like I remember modeling stuff like that. Like I love doing backgrounds with 3D Max, just like being able to move a 3D space around like that. And maybe that's genetics because my father was an architect, so maybe that's where that comes from. I like modeling buildings and rooms and stuff like that with 3D programs. I don't do it as much anymore, but I enjoy doing it just for that. And my very first website was actually modeled in 3D Max. The very first Chris Crazy House was done with 3D Max, and I just rendered them out as still images and created the buttons with Flash. Uh, so those are the programs that I learned in school along with Flash. But Flash was the one that I kind of rolled with. And to be honest, Flash is the one that's helped me get work consistently since I left school. So once I learned Flash, and people when I say I know Flash, people assume that all I do is program websites, and I don't. I'm not a programmer, so I always have to explain to them I know how to do the animation in Flash. Yes, just by osmosis, I know how to do some of the action scripting in Flash. Like I know how to program buttons and even how to make a basic web page. But for the most part, I didn't really bother with using it that much. Okay. What was the other program? I'm trying to remember. There was another program that went along with Flash that was good for websites. Was it called Dream or something like that? I don't know if anyone even uses that anymore. Macromedia Dream. I think that was for doing websites, but I think it kind of fell off. So it's kind of like everything's more done with Flash nowadays. And not to toot my own horn, but thanks to people like me, I guess you can either thank me or blame me, but thanks to artists like me, Flash became very popular and it was used later on. It was bought by Adobe. And like I said, that's where you can either blame me for that. But because of artists like me doing independent animation with Flash, it became popular and Adobe bought it and they raised the price on it. And now it's become more of an industry standard. And now it's more expensive to even get it. So, like I said, you can either thank me or curse me out for making Flash popular. But I'm one of the artists that did so. Uh, as far as like the programs that I use on a day-to-day basis, I use Flash for a lot of different things. Like I've used Flash to, like I said, create comic books, to create ads, to create posters, for animation, obviously, different types of animation, whether it be for the web, music videos, games, and everything else. It all depends on what the end result is going to be and how you need to export it. Exporting is really the basic idea of taking your animation and putting it into different formats. So doing a movie is the easiest thing. Like if you're going to export an actual animation and put it into a movie, that's very easy to do. Just export it at a certain size, a certain file format, whether it's MP4 or just a movie. I think that's usually the easiest way because you don't lose the animation integrity. When you try to do Windows media files, they're not as good, in my opinion. Let's see what else. But once I started getting working in the industry more, and I also like to do traditional animation on paper. So for me, the program that I finally got into that helped me do more just regular pencil animation is a program called Sketchbook. Now, originally I was using Adobe Image Ready for doing pencil stuff. Like I would just draw it in pencil and Image Ready, one image after another. And I'm not sure if anyone even uses Image Ready anymore, but you could create animated GIFs and pencil animation with Image Ready. But I didn't like the way the pencil looked, but I just kind of worked with it because that's all I had. But once Sketchbook came out, I started using that. And when I first used Sketchbook Pro, what you had to do was you drew your animation in layers, like you used the layers part of the program, drew one thing on top of the other, and then you rendered out those layers uh, as a sequence. And by doing so, that's how you were able to create your animation. Now, uh, Sketchbook Pro now has its own way to do animation on there. Let me see what it's called. I forgot what it's called. Let me just open it up and I'll see. But it has a little tab now where you can actually make your own animations in the program itself. Because it caught on to industry people like myself doing so, and I know for a fact that they do this at a lot of studios that work for Cartoon Network. So Cartoon Network and Turner Studios, which is kind of one and the same. Turner Studios handles most of the Adult Swim stuff, or they outsource a lot of Adult Swim stuff. But uh, yeah, it's called Flipbook. So if you can make an actual flip book or image sequence, pretty much all it is you're making an actual sequence of stuff for animation, and you can render that out. That way, you can have your pencil animation right there. And I like to import those images, those pencil images, in the Flash, and I'll refine them or do little things to them. If you want to see an example of how I do this, just go to this channel, this YouTube channel, and look up that Ninja Attack animation. I'll post a link in the chat in a second. Let me go grab it. But if you watch that Ninja Attack, I do a breakdown of how I do my animation that way. Okay. Now, sometimes I'll just go ahead and create the characters completely in Flash, but if I want some really good animation, I'll do it this way. And this is also how I do my video games as well. So anytime I'm working in the game industry, I'll draw things out with Sketchbook Pro, and then I'll refine them in Flash later on. And that helps me get a good sense of motion, and that way I can, fix things later on or erase things or stretch them out later on. It just depends on the reason I use Sketchbook is just to get that basic animation down. Refine it and color it later. So here's a link to that in the chat right there. So if you go watch the Ninja Attack animation, it breaks it down piece by piece of how I put together my animations. Okay, it shows you the finished product first, and I have the vision all together in my head. So I do a little bit by bit character by itself. Then I composite it later with the background in Flash. Okay, so that's just a basic example of how my process works. And just depending on what you're up to in your life, this didn't actually take me that long, but I have experience. But also, I'm someone who's very when I do animation, I kind of tune out and turn off everything. Like what I like to do is, especially now that I have a child, I'll do it at nighttime or do it early in the morning while everyone's asleep. And sometimes I'll have music, other times I don't. For animation, I really don't need any type of background noise. I can just do it in complete silence. The only time I really need music or a podcast or something is when I'm inking a comic book, because that's very tedious to me. So I kind of need something there, and I don't need it, but I like to have music when I'm coloring because I think music is very vibrant and it's always good to have in the background when you're actually painting or coloring or something. So if you want to know a little bit about my creative process, that's it. Animation, I don't need anything because I'm concentrating on the motion. For inking, I need some sort of podcast or some music in the background. And for painting, I do like to have some music. I don't need it, but it's just fun to have there. So, as far as other things that I know, programs or whatever, there's basic things like GarageBand, QuickTime, iMovie. What's the big one that they use on Macs? Final Cut. There's some script writing programs that I know a little bit about. Uh, I really don't, like I said, I'm not a programmer, but I have worked with programmers, so I do know doing my own website. I know HTML, and I also know a little bit of XML as well. Not enough to if you're going to call me up and say, "Hey, Chris, can you program this website or this game for me?" I don't ask me that. What I'm saying is I know a little bit about a little bit. Okay, I'm not a programmer myself. I know a little bit of how to get things done. Uh, I have used Spriter, which is a game that you take game sprites and make game sprites with. I don't think I'm using it the right way though. I think what it's supposed to be used for is people who don't know how to actually do sprite animation to begin with, and you kind of put your art in there or make it all in that program yourself. So it's made for not to be derogatory, but it's made for laymen, so anyone can use it and create game sprites. For me, I like having that more hands-on feel of creating every sprite myself. Like if you've seen my game animation on this channel for the games like Canary Kaboom or Dead Man's Quest, you'll see that that's all me. From start to finish, I drew all those characters and painted them and made them all myself. So that I kind of like having that hands-on approach. Even the backgrounds, I made all that myself. Those were, as a matter of fact, that was when I first moved to Tennessee. I made all that stuff within maybe like a month or two. Let's see, let me do the math. We moved here in May, and I think I finished all that stuff in like late July, early August. So that's 2 games that I completed. Oh, plus the car game too, which some of you probably never seen. I made a game that actually did get published called Jalopy Joyride. So I did that as well in that time period. But just what I'm saying is I like to go in there and create everything myself from. So the creator of Mega Man. Oh, let me see if my stream comes back. Hold on. Okay, stream is back. So I got that from people like Inafune, who created the game Mega Man, and also what's his name, Miyamoto, the one that created Super Mario Brothers. Because I actually read their actual books on how they created those games, and they used like just pieces of paper and graph paper, how they created each level of the game and the characters and where everything, all the hidden parts were. Just looking at that, that's how I kind of like to create games. Obviously, I have the technology that they didn't have. They had to like punch numbers into a computer when they were doing this. I don't have to do that. But just looking at the way they create games, I think that's a good way to learn for yourselves if that's what you want to do with the rest of your life. So always study the greats, always study people who will come before you, and I think you'll be able to move forward with whatever you want to do. And like I said, it's always encouraging to know that they created these games that will last to the end of time, and they had didn't have the technology that we have today. So that for me, that's also very inspiring. So anytime I hit a snag or think that I'm screwing up or not, my art's not as good, I just have to think. Inafune and Miyamoto didn't have a damn computer to render all this stuff out for them in 2 seconds like I do. Okay, they had to do everything by they had to have some math skills to create some of that stuff. So yeah, DJ, Mega Man's my favorite game too. That was the one that kind of started me into wanting to do animation when I saw that game way back when. Now, I remember renting it first, and then I remember my dad buying me Mega Man 2 when it first came out. Uh, as far as other programs go, um, some of the ones like Anime Studio and Manga Studio. What's the other one? Toon Boom. Toon Boom was another one that I used when it was first out there, and it was cheap for everyone and available for everyone. And once again, whether you want to blame me or thank me using it or people like me using it is what got it so popular that now is one of the most expensive animation programs out there. and and to the point where even I don't even use it anymore because I can't afford it. It costs too much. Like I remember when I first had the original version of it, it was fine. I still have the old version of it, but those new versions of Toon Boom cost too much. It's ridiculous that they would do that to uh, to the artist out there, especially because I mean none of us are rich or independently wealthy. If like they want you to pay what the major studios like Warner Brothers, Disney, and these anime studios pay for the programs. Like I'm an individual, I can't afford that. Walt Disney can afford this program, I can't. So I don't know why they do that though. They think that that's somehow helping them. I guess I don't know. And with Adobe, they've come up with this whole subscription thing. So I pay like $30 a month to use Flash, but uh, the way they had it before was okay. I didn't mind like that. That wasn't it was expensive, but not too expensive for what I'm doing with it. So that $500 to $600, wouldn't mind paying for that as long as I can have the program. Because in my opinion, Adobe Animate is cool, and there's a lot of things that you can do with it. I like the idea of having tutorials at my fingertips if I need a tutorial for something. But what I don't like is that because it's an online program, first of all, it wants to save everything to their cloud, and I had to had to turn that off. It took me forever to figure out how to turn that off. But another thing is it gets kind of glitchy. Like if you're using the program constantly, it's not a big deal. But like let's say if I had like if I was doing a live stream now and had Adobe Animate on at the same time when I'm not using it, and I go get something to drink and come back and turn it back on, Adobe Animate starts acting real glitchy. I don't know what that is, but it starts acting really weird where like you can't click on certain options anymore. It won't. I remember one time like the layers weren't working. I was working on the first Big Monty book, and for some reason, like I came back, I had the program on. I went somewhere and came back, and I had saved everything was saved, so I wasn't in trouble there. But the layers weren't working. I thought I had messed up the actual file somewhere, but what it was, I had to like restart my entire computer and restart Adobe Animate to get it to work again. And I'm like, that's kind of ridiculous that you have this thing that's always connected to the web and it can glitch like that. And I think it's because it's connected to the web. If it was just on my computer, on my hard drive, I wouldn't have that problem because I'd never had that kind of problem with Flash before when I've just bought the program and had it on here. But as soon as I have this thing that's constantly connected to the web, now it has glitches in it. So like I don't know what's going to be for the future of that. I know a lot of people have complained about that, so I would think that they would change their idea of how to do it. But I don't know. We shall see in the future. Okay, I might do an update or a video on that when they actually do change it. Say hallelujah They let me just buy the program again, just buy it on a disc and download it to my computer. But who knows? Like I said, everything's that way nowadays. Even my wife was telling me, because my wife, she works for the state, and they do a lot of, like, she does a lot of statistics. So a lot of those programs are also subscription based, and they'll just buy one version for the entire floor or wherever she works. It's like, you know, just give somebody an option. She said she'd rather have it on her computer, but I was like, I don't know what it is nowadays. Everyone thinks subscription is the way to go. So I don't know. Let's see. I think that looks better now. Like I said, I'll show you what I've been working on here. Like I said, these, if you can look at this right here, when I draw stuff for comic books or for books, this is what it looks like. I keep it real loose, real easy, and not too refined. Now, obviously, I can draw more refined images. Especially if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen it. But when I do stuff for books, animation, or comic books, I keep it loose like this. That way, it's easier for me later on to, when I do the inking and the coloring, I can just go over this, and I can make it look a lot cleaner later on. Oh, when I do my coloring books as well, I keep a very loose style like this. And I know it looks confusing. I know it looks like a mess. I know a lot of people will probably be like, what the hell? Like, I would never send this to an inker to do, because they probably have a hard time finding which line to ink. But for me, I know what I'm doing. So I know the way it's supposed to look. But for someone else, they might have a problem going through this stuff. So like I said, I just keep it real simple like that. And the refined image obviously looks a lot better if you've seen any of my work later on. So that's just my. Oh, DJ says that these companies, they make the thing subscription because they don't want someone pirating their software. But you know what? In my opinion, that's what creates pirating, by making stuff too expensive and making stuff unavailable to the masses and making it available to only these big companies. And that's what creates the pirating. I'm not gonna lie to you folks. My first version of Adobe Flash was a pirated version. And because I could not afford, when Adobe bought Macromedia, what they were charging for it. This was like right at the start of my career. I couldn't afford that $600 or whatever it cost at that time. Just out of pocket, I would have to save up. And I would never do that nowadays unless it was something that was going to benefit me in the long run. Like I said, to me, that's what creates the pirating, is when they try to overcharge for things. I think that's unfair to do to especially a lot of young artists out there. We can't, just from my experience, I know I couldn't afford that stuff back then. Like nowadays, I'll just go ahead and pay for a program and it works out. But even then, it frustrates me. I don't think I should be paying that much for some of this stuff. But I understand they want to make some money, but damn, you don't have to rape people's pockets so they can use your program. That's, some people say I should overcharge for some of my products, but I like to keep things affordable. That's why I like to keep my coloring books under $6. So I think that's better for the public. That makes people more. It's not like I'm not getting any money from it. That's the thing. It's like, because I sell so many, I'm getting paid for it. So it's not like a big deal where where I feel like I need to fleece the public or fleece my fans. Now, if there's something that takes more energy to make, or takes more money to ship something or to print something, because that's the thing about, for my coloring books, it doesn't cost that much for me to get them printed and sent to you, because it's black and white. So for me, it's not that big of a deal. I'm not hurting for money in that regard. So it depends on what the project is. I can understand if you're sending out like a actual game or pressing the game, but even that nowadays, I think a lot of people who develop these games are getting suckered as far as like what they get. And unless you're a major company out here, I guess it depends. You just gotta be careful with who you do deals with. I'm not sure how much Apple pays for your app and how successful your app has to be for you to get some sort of profit off of it. Because I've never been involved in that stage of the production, so I don't get like I don't have royalty checks from any games that I've worked on. I've always gotten paid up front, paid very well, by the way. So I'm not. That's not a never been an issue for me as far as like the gaming industry. But I don't know what you would make off of a game like based on the sales or. So I know a lot of them. What they do is they'll make the game free or make the game just $1, and then they'll charge for in-game purchases. And I guess that works on a lot of stuff. Like I think I rather just play the game and gain stuff that way. Like I do like playing little role-playing games. That's just me personally. I like to just play the game and build up my money or build my skills that way. I don't want to just pay for a bunch of extras or whatever. So, but that's just up to who the developer is, I guess. So that's basically it, folks. That's my list of programs that I do know are the ones that I use for the most part. Like I said, the ones I use on a regular basis: Sketchbook Pro, Flash Animate, and Sketchbook Pro I think is actually free nowadays. I think you have to pay for the extras, but I think you can just download it for free. But for me, the free part is the easiest part to use, and that's what I use all the time. So for me, it's not a big deal. Now, you can draw with that program, paint. It has pen tools. You can ink stuff. I like using it just for doing animation. And like I said, a lot of people in the industry use that program. And like I said, I think it's free nowadays. But as far as drawing programs go, you don't have to use that. You can use whatever you want. If you like Photoshop, use that. I think there's this one called Sai. If you like Sai, use that. If you like Painter, the brother, the amazing artist Marcus Williams, he does most of his work with Painter. If anyone's seen his recent series of drawings he had of X-Men crossing over with Disney princesses. The artwork is amazing. And like I said, he just uses Painter. I've seen him do it just live, sitting at a table somewhere. He just uses Painter and sometimes a digital tablet. Same thing goes for what's that? There's a program that's on your iPad. I've heard that's a good vector program. Is it Artist or whatever that Apple has? I can't remember what it is, but I know a lot of vector artists use it nowadays. I have yet to use it or try it. Maybe one day I will. Or maybe I'll get an iPad one day. It's funny to me. Like I've never owned an iPad, but it seems like I'm always buying them for other people. I bought like 5 of them so far. I've never bought one for myself, which is hilarious. But maybe I'll get one for myself one day and use it for doing artwork or something. Because I know there's a lot of artists nowadays who are cutting down on cost by just having an iPad, an Apple Pen, or whatever. And maybe one day I will do that just to have something more portable. But I still enjoy drawing in my sketchbook, so I need I have a sketchbook right. Where is it at? There's one right there. Actually, I have one here. There's 2 on the table. There's a small one underneath my desk. So I have sketchbooks all over this damn room. Too many, if you ask me. But it is what it is. So make sure this live stream is still working. Says my connection is unstable, which I don't understand. But anyway, whatever. Thank you guys once again for coming to the live stream. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for supporting this channel and subscribing when you do, and following up notifications. Thank you to last week I had a contest on this live stream, and the brother Cottrell Evans, he won the prize for that. He won the prize of getting all 3 of my coloring books along with some naturally cute stickers as well as a poster. And I sent that out to him yesterday. I had to email him with the tracking number. But yeah, he won that contest last week. And next month, I'll probably do another giveaway contest. So I don't know what the prize will be just yet, but I will let you guys know as time goes on. So next month, I will do another giveaway. In order to win, though, you need to make sure that you're a subscriber and you're actually watching the content on this channel. If you watch the content on this channel, you're a shoo-in to win. Because like I said, I'm always uploading new stuff on here. In fact, I got some more stuff coming today. tonight and tomorrow morning. So there'll be some new animation on here and a new art video on here as well. So you guys just make sure you keep posted, and thank you once again. Let me see. How can you approach an how can you someone asked the question, says how can you approach an artist for a project when you don't have a lot of capital? That's up to the artist, but I would say do the best you can to raise the proper capital to get them to work with you, because we all artists have lives too. We're not cyborgs. Okay, we do have lives. We do have things we need to take care of. We do have a home. Like for me, I have a home and a child and two cars and everything else. I got the quote unquote American dream. But you know, even people who are outside of me, there are other artists who have less than that, but they still need stuff. Like I remember when I just was living in an apartment, but I still need to pay rent, electricity. Just think about yourself as far as like what you want to be paid for your job, for your time, and think about what the artist might need. Now, he might work with you as far as the pricing. Maybe you can just pay them in installments. Like I've done that before. If they can't pay the whole amount, maybe pay you in installments as time goes on. That's okay. Do that. Or uh, maybe, and this depends on what you're doing, but maybe if you're doing a project that you can pay him a little bit as time goes on, but also you share in the profits later on with whatever you're putting out there. You see what I'm saying? Like if he's helping you to create something, you probably should be sharing profits with him and later on. Or if they're helping you to create, they're designing something for you, or if they're, well, like I said, if you don't have the full capital, then there are ways to do it. Like for me, it's difficult because, like I said, I'd rather have the money. So for me, I don't want to wait because it's, like I said, for me, it's a time factor. I really don't have the time for a lot of things like I used to. Like I said, for me, because like I said, having a family now, that just sucks up so much time out of my day. It's even hard for me to just sit here and do this, but I'm doing it because I feel like a necessity to do so, because people ask me so many questions. But like I said, it's one of those things where you have to make sure that if it's important to you, you'll put together the capital. That's just my opinion. Like I said, if there's something that I need a program, or if I need something done with this house, like I just had to have this tree out front. I had to have a lot of the branches cut down because they kept falling down. And I was afraid they were going to fall on one of my neighbor's cars or something like that. I had to get the money to do so, or otherwise it was just not going to get done. And you know, you do your research and find out, because there might be some people who can do it for cheaper. Just go ahead and find out who you can get, and excuse me, compare and contrast uh, what you need to get done, and if that person can accomplish it for you. Maybe there's someone out there cheaper than me who can do it and do it better for you. That's always an option. That's the great thing about uh, having those options out there. You don't have to just go to me. There are other artists out there, and I'm not greedy where I'm saying like, as a matter of fact, I've passed off work to other people if I can find them. Like if you know there's a project that you want done, I might know someone. Like I said, I can't do it, but I'll pass it off to somebody else. You see what I'm saying? So, and you guys can work together from there. It's not one of those things where I'm not so selfish or so egotistical where I think I need to do everything. That's never been me. I always want other people to flourish as well. So I think there's more than enough opportunities and money for everybody. So yeah, if you might be depending on what you might want someone who maybe wants to do a collaboration with you. Uh, I don't really like doing collabs, but if the person is, like I said, I would want to work on a collab with someone who has some skill of them on their own, so it's not just me doing all the work. That's just my humble opinion. So, but you might find someone who's willing to collab or work with you on the price. It just it's a matter of how much you want to go out there and find someone to do it. So just letting you guys know that's what it is. Hopefully, I answered your question as well as I could. Respect to everyone. I love you all. Someone asked me what happened to the Chronicles of PA. I'll tell you what happened. Uh, my my business partner, who was the one that was writing the book, I have not seen him in several years or heard from him in several years. So I don't know what happened with it. I somewhat mentioned it on one of my channels, didn't I? Didn't I mention this on the other Black Opinion channel where I said the guy uh he got married to a girl, some foreign girl, and they she ran off with his baby and everything else. Like I said, I haven't heard from him since. And that's the thing. Like I don't want to put too much out there, but just saying that, it's made me worry about doing collaborations with people because, like I said, that was a very sad thing. And there's a lot of things that were done that I didn't really agree with, but I went along with it because apparently that's what the people want. At least that's what someone told me. But uh, he wasn't. He was a good guy, but he did some things too that were kind of odd. That I kind of gave him the side eye after a while too. I don't want to get too much into that. Because like we were supposed to do a game and everything, and when I approached him about like I'll just say when I approached people for the money to do the game, it was like there was no money there. I'm like, okay. Even the way that was the capital was done for that game, like I think it was done through Kickstarter, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, there wasn't enough. Like I don't think there was enough money to even do the game. If you ask me, like I told him we should probably get some more money. Like I was willing to work for spec, but but I still needed money to pay other people to do certain things. Like I didn't want any money. So for those who think that I might have got rich off of that Kickstarter, don't think Chris didn't get any money for it whatsoever. In fact, I did a lot of work that is just I still have on file, but there's no one to pass it off to because there's no money to give them. And other folks wanted to use interns, and he wanted to use interns that really had no type of skill whatsoever, who weren't prepared to do this type of work. So like I said, things weren't what they should have been. And I take responsibility in the fact that I should have been more on top of it. I was so busy at the time, not just working on that, but other things as well, that I entrusted a lot of things to someone else. And I probably shouldn't have. I probably should have taken more of a hands-on approach with that aspect of it. 'Cause like I said, if I had done it, I would have made sure we got more money to do it to begin with, and not just little things. But even so, my suggestion was we should have just kept moving forward with the books instead of doing the game anyway. But no one wanted to listen to me. Uh, the people spoke and said they wanted a game, but then the people that wanted the game didn't know what they were doing as far as producing. I was the only one with any type of game experience, and I told them this is not going to work. But like I said, people don't listen to me when I tell them stuff, so whatever. So that's what happened to it. I still sell the books that were done. I still sell them. So if you want to buy one, just go to I think on my website. I'm not sure if they're on the website or not, but I still sell the books when I go to shows. I sell the graphic novel and all 4 issues. So if you still want to buy that, you can. I'll always sell that because I took so much time and effort, blood, sweat, and tears, literally, into that book. So I'm definitely going to always put it out there and sell it. So that's what happened to it. Like I said, without getting too much, as not to, like I said, I don't know what happened to him, so I can't tell you. I can't tell you good or bad. I don't want to put negative on someone and something bad happened to them because, like I said, his situation wasn't the best. But like I said, the project itself suffered because of that, and it shouldn't have been that way. But anyway, folks, that's what happened. So anyway, you guys take care. I'm gonna hop back on this big Monty stuff and try to get that done as much as I can get done today before I gotta go pick my kid up from school. And thanks a lot once again, and you guys take care. Chris Miller signing out. Peace.